Hey guys, so hope you enjoyed that synchronized clip of this solo. I thought we could talk some theory. I haven't done that on my channel in a while. So how to improvise over a chord progression like this, some ideas and some analysis of these licks that Jerry's using. And this is for the second solo on Mississippi Half Step Without a Net. Thanks to Chris, who transcribed most of it, and I edited a bunch of it. So shout out to him. Shout out also to check out Macbeth Music if you wanna. I'm gonna play some real basic chords, but Macbeth Music on YouTube definitely has. He just did a lesson over this, and you should go check him out. He does a lot of Bob Weir parts and really nails them. So if you want to dive more into inversions of chords and whatnot, check that out. But to start, the chord progression, I wrote all the chords on the top of the PDF, and you might wonder why they're slash chords for the A minors, the 3 A minor chords in the beginning. And I did that because I did go to jazz school, so they drilled into my brain that you don't really need to use the root of chords as much. I mean, that's more of a jazz thing, but usually when I play this chord progression, I don't play the full A minor. I'll start on 7/7 and then bar the rest, which is why it says over E. So, but the way I look at it, it's an A minor major 7. Or another way I look at that, I guess it's the correct way to kind of word it, but I almost think about this as just descending. So it almost be A minor over, what would it be, G sharp. You can also play it like this. I just like adding that extra 5th in there. Then A minor 7, D9. And then F, first time around. So those first 5 chords are the same for both times around, and then from the F it changes the second time. The first time it's F to D minor to B7 to E7. And I'll show you can do a lot of fun stuff over that. And the second time around we descend, F, same thing, but then A minor, because what does that do? That leads us right back to the D7. It's kind of like a lot of secondary dominance here, like 5 to 1. It's like this is 5 going back to 1 chord. We're not really considering if they're major, minor, dominant 7. This is 5 to 1, and then another 5 to 1. You may ask what that means, but like a 5 to 1 in music, especially 5/7, but any 5 to 1 is like in jazz. 2 5/1s are extremely common, like all over the place. So right there I did A minor to D. So if we just count the letters, and of course you have to pay attention to sharps and flats and certain key signatures, but this is in A minor. I mean, it kind of goes all over the place, and we're going to pay attention to chord tones, but you just count A, B, C, D, or excuse me, you count it from D. D, E, F, G, A. So A is the 5, and the 5 chord always wants to pull back to the 1 chord. That's just a thing. Like if you take just normal G7, there's actually another 5/1, how the solo ends and goes back to verse. The reason there's so much tension from that 5/7 to 1 is you can look at the top of the chord. Things that are half step away want to resolve to the nearest half step. So you can see in this G7 we have an F for the dominant 7th being released to an E as the 5th of C major, and we have a C. We have an B in G7 going up a half step, resolving to C. So you can hear tension, and that's a we got tritones, which is a lot of tension. But that half step away thing pulls back, just like how an E7, dominant 7, or let's just say E major if you're not very familiar with theory, because an E7 is dominant 7th. There's 3 kinds of 7s, but which one has more tension? Here's E minor to A minor. It can sound great in a lot of contexts, but E major to A minor, the difference is instead of G going back to the A, we have G sharp going back to A. And that half step, that 1 fret distance, always wants to pull more. Hear that? Instead of. But yeah, so let's talk about it a little bit. First of all, like, I'll play you something that I'd maybe play for the, and I slowed it down a bit, and I'm going to be playing to kind of like really kind of crappy MIDI track that I just put together on Guitar Pro. But one thing too is if you're learning how to play over chord changes like this, especially a little bit more complicated ones, can you solo without chords behind you and still give the feel of the changes? Like I did Ramble on Rose, like a version John Mayer did solo a while ago, and you can hear the D to E and all that, like some so you can hear the chord changes just with one guitar. So like something like this, like and so you can kind of hear, you know, like the B7 at the end going into the 3rd of the E7 chord. So, you know, we have the A minor walk down. I like to think about it as descending, and it's still descending if you think about it. That F sharp and the D chord goes to F, D minor, right, B7, E7. The second time we have F, A minor, D7, G7. Lots of secondary dominants and 5s going to 1. So I like to kind of riff on this sort of scale that starts off almost like a harmonic minor scale with the root. It would be like 7, 6, 7 on the D, and then on the G 4, 5, 7, then on the B and the E 4, 5, 8, 4, 5, 8. You can land on 7, like. Then I think that you go to that, after that point you're landing on a minor 7, so I want to kind of target that 7th, because when you're playing over chord changes, landing on the root sounds great and landing on the 5th sounds great, but if you land on the 3rd or like the 7th, that sounds really great, because that's what gives the chord its color. Because the only difference between like an A major and an A minor is the 3rd changes. The A and E stay consistent while C goes to C sharp. And same with 7ths, they color the chord, you know, whether it's major 7 or dominant 7th or minor 7th. So first lick Jerry does after the E7 before solo, and then this is bar 2 on the file attached. He does this triplet. So he's targeting a lot of just kind of the A minor scale there. Like I said, like if you're improvising, can use that as kind of like a way to interpret it. But I really like this kind of that classic Jerry. Then I know we have an F. There's an F triad here in the cage system D shape. Can even chromatically walk up it. And that's going from the B7. I'm playing a B major triad. Chromatic walk down from the root into the seventh, or excuse me, the third of E7. So if I were to just play this at 90% speed. And what I did there is Django style, which he was a huge influence on Jerry. Started a diminished triad, diminished triads, if that's the right word. Just you keep skipping 3 frets. That's why when you move them up 3 frets at a time, they're all the same chord. If you were to take the notes in this diminished chord and then move it up 3 frets, move it up 3 frets, move it up 3 frets, they're all the same notes organized differently. And you can use that over 7th chords, like at the end there. My favorite way is to start at the major 7th, even though we're over a dominant 7th chord. Like, a nice box for that is 6-9 on the D, 7 on the G, and then 6-9 on the B, and then you could extend it if you want to do 7-10 on the E. And then resolve it back to a chord tone in A minor. So it's really good to like write all these chords out in the chord tones, because second part of the solo here, Jerry also goes from this A up here, does a lick, down to, so he's following that, the changes in the A minor chord. So, you know, we got that, these first few licks, which are the first 4 measures are after the setup, which is just all E's. And I'm not going to explain too much about, if you guys want a lesson video, I can do that. I thought it'd be better to do analysis and theory here, and then we have this. Whoops, I did kind of mute the solo there, but if you listen. Right there. Okay, so it's. Now what's interesting, there's 4 or 5 parts in this solo. I'm looking at measure 7 over the D minor, and he does this almost always like 2 beats ahead. And at first I thought he just fucked up, to be honest with you, but I don't think that's the case, because let's think of these notes. This 13 and 12 over the D minor is an E flat or a D sharp and a B. Now what is that over D minor? That's a flat 9 and a major 6, which gives a really interesting sound. But in my opinion, the next chord's B7, and both of those notes are in a B7. So he's almost like foreshadowing and pushing into the next chord. Then look at measure 8. He does the same exact thing. Like, he does highlight this B triad, or guess, well, yeah, it's a triad, but it's the Cage system C version of it. If you don't know much about the Cage system, I have a video on it, and I'll probably be updating, making a new one. So we have B7, or a B triad, just a B triad here. But then once he gets towards the second beat and pulling into it, he does already, like he's playing over the E7, and then he continues on the E7 with E7 style lick. So he's climbing down 5th, 3rd, root, chromatic walk down to the dominant 7th or the minor 7th, and then back up. The second part of the solo, you know, it goes from F to A minor, then D, D7. You can go right from that F sharp, the major 3rd of D, into F, which is in G7. Remember, it's another 5 to 1. And fun things to do over this 5 to 1 are you could do over like a D major. He does these kind of licks a lot. So climbing down the triad, 10, 11, 12 from B, G, D, then chromatic, after the 12, 11, 10, slide in the 9. And what is that? Take a second to think about it. If you pause the video. That's the major 3rd of G. So we're going, or if you do it over the B chord in the song, you end up on the major 3rd of the E if it's a 5 to 1 type thing. So with that being said, a really cool lick he does at the end of this is one of my favorites. Like, I hear over the G7 this kind of here, let's do this, like, and that sounds really cool. It all sounds really cool, but you know, another technique I learned in studying jazz guitar is just try to simplify your solo one note at a time, and for each chord, start on a note. So let's start on the root, A. Find the next closest note that's, usually you can find one or 2 frets away, so a half or whole step away. So we have an A minor, then we can just go down to this note. But now where can we go for the D9? We can go right to this 4, because that's the major 3rd. So just real simple. And you can just mess around with the rhythms like that. So just try to find the next closest chord tone in the next chord without moving too far, 1 or 2 frets. Then we have an F, go right on down. So you notice how this progression went? F. Then what chord do we have next? We have D minor. So there is an F still in D minor, and then there's an A and a D. So we could stay on that F. That's probably the closest chord tone. And you could always consider adding 7ths and whatnot in, but so we have, and I'm just having fun with the rhythms of these one notes. So A minor, major 7, A minor 7, D9, F, D minor. Then where does it go? It goes B7. So we have two options. Can you think of what they would be? One's 2 frets away, one's 1 fret away. We could go down to the major third of B7, which, like I said, those colored a lot, which is the 1st fret, D sharp. Or from the 3rd fret, we can go up 1 fret. And what is that? That is the perfect 5th B7. So it doesn't sound as good on its own, but it's a great exercise to kind of know where the chord tones are on the neck. Or bring it up an octave. And then you can add some flavor to it like that. So then B7, and then you just keep on like that, and then B7, we can resolve up to E, play the perfect 5th. Or go down to the D, which would be the dominant 7th. So yeah, Jerry's doing in this solo a lot of licks like right before the chord actually hits. Let's see if any other parts make that a little bit clear. Yeah, like when he does the D over the D7, he goes and lands on that 9 or that B note, the major third of G, before it actually hits, like foreshadowing. So like when he did the over D minor, it was before the D minor. And I showed you the, you can also add the 7th of those chords in, which would just be 3 frets above the note you're starting on. So if we just try to like play a solo that's not too complicated, but so over the first step, I accidentally soloed not the chords but the other guitar, so we'll do this. Is this it? F major. So yeah, and then a good exercise too is, can you play all these in triads? F, then we go next D minor, B7, and there we can extend it to, instead of a triad, hit that 7th. And then over the E, I just love the, you can start at the major 7th, or the actual root, or what would be the minor 3rd, or what would that be? The flat 5th, and you get something really cool. So simplicity can be good sometimes. That resolves really well. You can literally, from the last D7 in bar 16, 17 to 18, back to the C, you could do F sharp on the 7th fret of the B, 6 for the F, and G7, then resolve on C. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I can also do a video of just Jerry's parts in specific, but I feel like that gives you a good idea. So yeah, just a couple ideas of soloing over that. Jerry starts off with his triplets. Every time I play that, I want to play Tennessee Jet. Of course, it's an octave higher. But hopefully that helps. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you.